We're going to continue here in the second chapter. This is, of course, the chapter is going to reveal yet the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, the one that he did not reveal to his wise men, but was asking them to reveal to him. And then when they said that was impossible, of course, he was going to have everyone killed, all the wise men, the sorcerers, and so forth. But I've opened up last week with a little discussion on the word kingdom. God is going to do something very unique in Daniel's life. And we have talked about this in terms of God had a plan that was adjusted for the time of the kings, from Saul to David and on. And they had desired to have a kingdom. They wanted a king like all the other nations. And so God allowed them, hesitantly, but he allowed them to have kings. And so we have these kingdoms, and of course they split after Solomon into the southern kingdom, northern kingdom. But these kingdoms of gods in the Old Testament were to have been this city on a hill. God's purpose never changed. His intent was that the world would come to know the Messiah. That is the only way that they're going to be with God forever. If they beat the Messiah, someone that can deal with their sins. And that plan went on, of course, until there was no remedy by God's words. He said, "We're done. It's not working. You guys, because of disobedience, man's disobedience, you guys are done. And we're going to change plans." And that that eternal camera panned over now to Daniel. And towards this end, Josiah, of course, being the last good king, but in these years of his sons reigning after, there was never a good king. But it was during this time of his son Jehoiakim's reign that Nebuchadnezzar came in. Morning, Wayne.
Morning.
Nebuchadnezzar moved in and took Judah captive and brought away a bunch of the young, brilliant men from Judah, Daniel being one of them. And it was part of God's plan, of course. One of the sort of the sub-themes of Daniel is that God's going to work just in the individual in miraculous ways. In terms of what he was going to do with a nation, he's now going to focus in on a single man or a few men that are devoted to him. And he's going to continue his purpose, is the point of all that. But it's an entirely different plan. And this word kingdom shows up in the book of Daniel. I mentioned last time it's like 44 in the King James. It's 44 times that the word kingdom shows up in this book alone. It shows up 44 times in the book of Luke, in the New Testament, as God's kingdom, or the kingdom of God, that kind of thing. So this word, and by the way, that's in Matthew it's also 55 times, that's the most frequent. But other than that, the other books don't touch that word as much, not nearly as much. So there's some close seconds, but this is certainly a highlight. It's a small book, the book of Daniel. And so there is this, you can immediately sort of pull out that God is going to be talking about kingdoms. And of course now, we were focused on God's, if you would, kingdoms. And now we're going to go into the secular world. As I said, that camera has panned over now to the secular world, if you would. But a godly man in a secular world. Now, just that little phrase already brings this thing pretty close to home. If you look around, you do not see a godly world. You see an ungodly world, and it appears to be getting more ungodly. And you as a man or woman that is following God, how? Now you've got someone you can relate to. And it's just remarkable what God has done with his story, if you would, because he's gonna leave all this. And in the book of Daniel, I said it's like they're not even paying attention. That is the narrative and so forth. In Daniel is not paying attention to what's happening back in Judah, and it's still going on. Daniel got picked up over here. There is some, something like 20 years, not quite maybe yet, until the absolute end of Zedekiah. And Daniel, of course, he's going to live, they guesstimate something into the 80s, because he's going to go all through the 70-year period, and he, of course, wasn't zero when he arrived, right? So you've got this timeline where God is now going to shift over, and you're going to look at what does it look like to strive to do God's will in an absolute secular surrounding. And of course, it's more complicated than that. You're not at all where you'd like to be. Right? If you would rather be home, but he is not home. He's in a foreign land with a foreign ruler, and he is at that ruler's sort of he's subject to him. And there's the parallels are going to go on and on through the book with our lives as Christians in a fallen and secular world. And so we've talked also about gifts in this way. You are, like Daniel, in this world, and God has given you certain gifts. And there's going to come a time and a place, of course, when God would have you use those gifts. He wants you available for his use. But he has gifted you uniquely for the place that God has you in his world. Daniel has been given gifts. The obvious one, right, is the dream thing. But obviously his intelligence was part of why he's there as well. So he's been given a couple of very key gifts to put him in the place that he is in. Now, we all wish we could be the intelligent one, I guess, right? It seems to come with its own, set of faults, if you would.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yes, absolutely. And what is remarkable, right, of course, is when you look at a man like Daniel with all this intellect, but his commitment is, of course, to God. So sometimes our intellect will get us into trouble, right? And we start to rely on our own intelligence rather than God's intelligence, which is, of course, detrimental to our well-being and those around us. But Daniel is committed, as we have seen. Now, and we're going to read more about it. But so, chapter 2, what I wanted to just touch on, just to remind you, the chapter starts off, verse 1 of chapter 2 says, in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, right? Wherewith his spirit was troubled. Now, the chapter begins, opens up. You know that Daniel is not yet in his prominent place in the kingdom. God is setting things in place. The dream is the start. I mean, a big start, of course. Yes, Alan.
Already his diplomacy is featured in the request of the guards.
Absolutely. He has, as Joseph did, as others in the Bible, God has found favor in him, and therefore has extended that. He finds favor in the sight of those around him. This is also by God's design, right? So he has already had that place, but we're going to step into chapter 2. He is not known as the interpreter of dreams. So there's a gift that is lying dormant in Daniel that is going to be absolutely necessary and needed in chapter 2, and nobody's really aware of it yet. That's where we're starting. Now, for all I know, you guys all have dormant gifts. I don't know. Or you have gifts that, of course, are available and for your use, And the prime time to use them is coming, or it already has shown up. One thing is similar with Daniel is that as God's children, you have gifts for his use in his kingdom. You know, it's part of this, all things work together for good. Remember that verse we always bring up in this class. All things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Now, if you're saved, you're called. And if you're called, you are to be used for his purpose. And if you're going to be used for his purpose, then he's got things that he has put in you for his use. Daniel is stepping in to that place where he is going to, if you would, shine. We're supposed to be light, right? Now,
I find it interesting in the 17th and 18th verse
of chapter 2.
Of chapter 2, where he asks his friends to plead God for mercy.
Yes.
We're talking relationship here.
Yeah,
This man knew relationship. He knew to call on his friends to do some pleading.
We talked a little bit about that whole scenario last week as well, where this was a very interesting little prayer session that they had, right? And of course, the other guys had to go to sleep and wake up not knowing if there was an answer. Daniel, of course, got the answer, and the other guys didn't until in the morning. I want to point out before that, though, it's just, we know the story. The king asked something of the magicians that they don't think they can accomplish. Verse 11 says, and it's a rare thing that the king required. There is none other than that can show it before the king, except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh, except they don't know Jesus. Right? But, so, for this cause the king was angry, very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Now, what I pointed out is, why wasn't he already aware? Because Daniel was not yet in his place. Daniel wasn't aware of this decree. Even when this fellow that was sort of commissioned to put these guys to death, he showed up, Arioch, he wasn't aware that the decree had happened yet. So it says, in verse 14, Daniel answered with the counsel and wisdom to Arioch the captain of the king's guard, which had gone forth to slay the wise men. He answered and said to Arioch the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king? And Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Now Arioch was there telling Daniel what's up. He wasn't aware. So he finds out. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king. We talked about that. He always had favor enough that he could go and request something of the king. And by the way, he asked for time. I didn't read it, but remember those other guys said, well, give us some time. And Nebuchadnezzar says, yeah, I know you guys. You just want time and you can make something up. Right?
Didn't they ask over and over for more time?
Yes, sir. Exactly. In demand. Okay. That happened to me in elementary school. You were a good saying when I got called out of the room.
Oh,
I didn't do it. I didn't.
It's just when you were behaving.
I didn't. It wasn't me. It was Wayne. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so another highlight that I tried to bring out last time was when you read a book like this, you are going to, the intricacies of God's timing is just crazy. Because we sort of, in our Christian lives, we go along and we live, and every now and then we bring God in. I don't know what you meant. You know what I mean? It's not, but God is in every molecule, keeping it all together. And when you sort of read some of this story unfolding, and by the way, I talked to my wife this morning a bit about it. When I'm going, the book of Daniel, a book like this of prophecy, and I knew this coming in, but there's so much information here that is around the surface, because you're looking at the secular world. There is so much stuff going on out there. And that ties into what happened. Like we're going to get to a point where we're just going to read about Belshazzar and the writing on the wall. Well, to get to that point in history, so that they were defeated in a day. I mean, the things that God put in place all around the world, that the known world, to make that event happen. And all you're hearing about, you just going into chapter 5 or whatever it is, and you read about the writing on the wall, and all of a sudden, that's the end. This is the end. Well, there's all the chess pieces have been moving into position for years, and things are going on. Jake.
In the normal world, you see this as an everyday thing happening, and you don't notice how marvelous, how it is to study it.
Marvelous is a good
Yeah,
word.
study it.
Yeah.
It's ultimate puppy master.
Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
And yet we have free will.
And we won't touch on that in any depth, but Cyrus is coming, right? We know Cyrus is coming. You know that Isaiah had talked about Cyrus coming. God had talked about Cyrus coming. Well, he's not in the picture yet, right? But there is, I don't get any further than this. There was an account of a plot to kill the baby Cyrus. Who do you think came up with that? Do you know, Daniel is going to be filled with prophecy. We're going to step right into that this morning, right? Well, do you know that when God says something's going to come to pass, it's going to come to pass? Do you know who strives to make it not come to pass as much as God will determine that? Satan wants it to fail. So he's going to... what did Herod do when he heard about this baby that was going to be born, King of the Jews?
Plotted
Trying to
against his
stop
life. Yeah.
the prophecy, right? He's going to try to stop the prophecy from happening. This is what we don't get. You can't. You just can't.
And if it isn't outright stopping, then it is falsifying a substitute.
Yep, exactly, and twisting it, right? Whatever he can do to mess it up. Well, Cyrus has been spoken about years before. He's coming. Well, wait. Chances are, if you're born as a baby and you're named Cyrus, I would look out. Right? What? Change your name later. Might be a better approach. But, okay, we won't get it. But there's all these details around the outside, the periphery, that you're not seeing. But what you are seeing is just the magnificence from the inside, right? And Daniel now is coming to this place where he is going to shine. But he is not yet there. So then, it says, and he answered, said, why is he so hasty? And Daniel went in, and he desired of the king, that's verse 16. Verse 17, then Daniel went to his house and made this thing known to Hananiah. They were also unaware, right? Okay. So now these guys, all four guys are in the loop, and they're going to have a praise time, prayer time. They're going to get together and have a time of prayer for a specific thing. What are they asking for? Well, we are talking about. We pray for wonderful things. Right? We're praying for people to be healed, right? That are in the hospital and suffering. But we're praying for events to occur. The prayer time that these guys are having is one of these. You are starting off at the impossible spot. Okay? Now, I don't know how else to try to bring this across, but most times I'm starting off in prayer with a possible scenario.
And they started off in death row.
Yeah. I'm starting off with a feasible or reasonable even. We've got good doctors, we've got good medicine, we've got good, right? So there's a reasonable chance. I think this is a different prayer session. We're asking you for something that is absolutely impossible. It just can't happen unless there is a real God who is really involved in our lives and will be willing to reveal things that he doesn't have to reveal. It's up to him. And you have no control on it, and nobody in the world has any control. Nobody else has any input in it. Nobody has any influence in it. So you're starting off at the absolute impossible end of a prayer request. That's where these guys are. With a pretty high incentive. Right? The incentive, of course, is I don't want to lose a friend, I don't want to lose someone I care about, or I don't want them to hurt, or I don't want them to get hurt. But that's at the one end. They are praying about a thing that if it does not come to pass, their lives are going to be forfeited. They're done. Now, the intensity of this prayer is something that I don't often experience. I'm sure of it. Because I don't usually have these parameters. I'm not sitting down with something that's totally impossible, and if it doesn't happen, I die. So this would be a good prayer session. Yes.
Is the intensity there if you have confidence that it's going to be happening? You know what I mean? If you have confidence.
These guys, there's a confidence, Jake, but I think it's that attitude that's going to show up in the fiery furnace. God can do it. Whether he will or not is totally up to him. I'm good. I mean, that's sort of the going into, and that's the hard part, I think, is as a follower of God, right? I get, wanting it to turn out the way I want it to turn out. That I get. Being good with however God turns it out, that's a different thing. Because I usually come, I'd be a guy walking around in the fire complaining, not realizing that it's not burning me.
It's warm.
Yes. This is a remarkable revelation of the character of these guys. There's just something very special about what these guys are going to perform in their place in this battle. Right?
So, unique thing, because often we pray, God, save me, or, heal us, and it's not your control. You're just saying, please, God, you do it, I have nothing. And here he has to pray that God gives him something, and he's got to perform.
Yeah.
So it's a unique, it's like me praying.
It is.
That's a
good point.
And score a goal in the NHL, it'll never happen.
That's a very good point. That's another aspect of this whole proposition. Yes, Al.
I called unto the Lord, and he answered me, and he delivered me from all my fears. I wanted to be delivered from my troubles and my circumstances.
And actually, the fear thing is something that we're going to touch on today as well. Because I'm going to ask a question, maybe I'll just ask it now. Because we know what's going to happen. He's going to reveal this dream to Nebuchadnezzar. Why? And I sort of touched on it last time. But why would you reveal what he's going to reveal to a heathen king? Why?
Well,
Why reveal-
on the local level, his life was at stake.
Why reveal prophecy? Why? Who wants to know how your life's going to end? Do you want to know? Do you want to lay it out in front of you? Do you want it?
Well, God says of Abraham, will I not tell him what I intend to do?
There's going to be
Will I not
times.
talk to my friend?
Now, obviously, the change of plan here, right? By the way, this is also a thought there's no end to it, but what if this had worked? I'm assuming we wouldn't be here, right? If God's plan and these guys had been obedient, there wouldn't be this Daniel thing. But God already knows the end from the beginning, so he knew there's going to be a Daniel, there's going to be a Cyrus, there's going to be go ahead.
Going back to the prayer part where it goes, as far as all these sports figures and all these people, everybody prays to win. Should we just pray to do God to help us to do the best we can, or what should we? Is the winning is the goal? So are we have ulterior motives in the whole thing?
Yeah, that's a good point, Jake. I am going to ask God why he lets Montreal Canadiens win. I will ask him that.
He doesn't let it very often, though.
Too often. Too often. Once is too often. Okay, so we won't get into that theology today, but let's step back in. They have got some prayer group going, and it says in verse 19, so they all went to bed, of course, right? And they woke up, and the secret, it says, then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Okay, now something's going on, okay? Daniel is doing what us people do, goes to bed, right? And now God meets with him in a night vision. That is, he's going to show him the whole deal. Pretty, he's going to, in a dream, or night vision, I'm assuming you could call that a dream, he's going to talk about the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, the stuff he put in his head. So he's meeting with Daniel now, and he's going to give him Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and he's going to show him what it means in his dream. Then he has to wake up. Now he's got, like Wayne said, now he's got the job, right? Now you are it. But there, in some of your translations, when I read the word secret, you're going to read mystery. Something I didn't know about this word, and this particular word, Chaldee word for secret, is only in this book, Daniel. There's other words that are interpreted as secret or mystery in other places, but not this word. This one is only used in Daniel. And it means, I say mystery in the other one, but this word means mystery, which is why a lot of your versions will read mystery as opposed to secret. But there's other words for secret that means more like, where the emphasis, the idea is that it's hidden or too high. Whereas a mystery is almost, it's got this little touch of something to be revealed as a mystery. And you're supposed to find it out. Well, we'll talk about an appropriate place to use that word in the book of Daniel. Because there is a mystery. The world, you've heard them ask this question, why am I here? It's called a mystery. God treats it, hi Susie, God treats it, by the way, as a mystery. In this way, there are clues for its discovery. You can find out. You can find out. You can, if you would, you can solve the mystery. Why am I here? Well, the book of Daniel is going to be like this little explosion of information, and he's doing it in the secular world. It's mind-boggling. He could have done it anywhere along here. Why wouldn't he have sat Jehoshaphat down in a dream? He could have revealed all this stuff that he's going to reveal to Nebuchadnezzar. He could have revealed it to those guys, but he didn't do that. This camera has moved over, like I said, into this little spot, if you would, in the palace. And the circle of players is down to just a few guys. And Nebuchadnezzar being the big player. And in all the people on the entire planet to put a revelation of what's coming, a mystery of this world. What is going to happen? He sticks it in Nebuchadnezzar's head. You understand? There's a period of time when nobody else in the entire world has access to it. It's in Nebuchadnezzar's head, put there by God. That's where God decided to put it. When I say God's in the details, He chose Bethlehem as the place for His Messiah to show up, right? Of all the places, He didn't pick Cooley. I can't believe it. But when you see December, you know why He didn't pick Cooley. But He chooses places, physical, three-dimensional places on the planet. And He zoomed in on Nebuchadnezzar's head. And That's where he puts this. Now, what has he got planned for you guys? I don't know, but do you see that he can use anybody that's willing to be used of him? Right? Or not. Right? So what he puts this in Nebuchadnezzar's mind, and who has he in place in the palace? Daniel. Now why would he give it, why didn't he just give it right to Daniel? This is a real question. So why wouldn't he just give it? Why wouldn't he just give it to Daniel? What was achieved, and this will help, I think, what was achieved by giving it to Nebuchadnezzar and not to Daniel?
God's glorified.
Yeah.
Say that again?
God being glorified.
God being glorified. Okay, now we hit the big pause button. God has timing and places and stuff where the gifts and the placement of you is going to result in him being glorified. Now, who can mess that up? Me. I can. But if I am closely connected to God as best I can, I'm striving, right, all that, and I want to be available for him, I want to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit's leading in all those things, right? So we say, okay, now it's time. Now it's time. And God's timing is going to be revealed, so that Vern gets the glory. That's where I slip. Am I striving in my life for God to get the glory? It's a pretty simple statement. It's just simple. Because for whatever reason, again, these guys are remarkable in that respect. They are living in a foreign place in conditions that they would not desire, circumstances and all that, and they are living for the glory of God. So now God has set, again, the chess pieces in place. And now, and by the way, it's done just like he's asking us to do things. Did he just say, well, Daniel, I got this, I'm going to give you the interpretation? No, they had at least some agonizing went into it in prayer on their knees, right? They're going before God and saying, God, can we have that? They're doing their part in this. Are they making it happen? No, they're not making it happen, but they are doing their part in honoring God. Look, if God doesn't reveal it, we don't get it. Okay, now that's good footing, right? That's it. So we'll start there. And they have moved into that place. God is going to use them. And he wakes up. The secret was revealed. This mystery was revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. That's that aspect of mystery. There are mysteries that God has intended for us to explore, investigate, if you would, and find answers. And he has given one here to Daniel. And Daniel blessed God. It's in verse 20. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. I'm going to read this just because he really praises God. We talked about this briefly, but he's going to talk about God's wisdom and God's might, and he gave some of that God's wisdom and God's might to Daniel, as he wants to do to you. God is omniscient. He knows everything. He's omnipotent. He's all powerful, right? And of course, he's everywhere, omnipresent. But he wants to dispense some of that to his people that are willing to follow him, glorify him. And this is what he does. He changes times and seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, knowledge to them that know understanding. There's the wisdom and the knowledge, right? He revealeth the deep and secret things. This is what he does. He can do it. Why am I here? The biggest mystery on the planet, and that impacts every soul that has ever existed. Why am I here? Good question. why am I here? Why do I exist? What possible reason could there be for me to be here on this planet? God says, I got that one. Ask me. Let's do some. Let's do some revealing of secrets in your life. Let's do it. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might. From his surplus, right, and excess, and unlimited infinity of it, he's giving Daniel something. That's what this book is, by the way. What a joy God has given of his mystery and his wisdom and his knowledge, and he gave it to us. Do you know how much of the world ignores this book entirely? Now here's a crazier thing. Do you know how much of the world's church ignores this as absolute truth? That means that they're looking for knowledge and wisdom in other places other than God. Now, does that make any sense? Well, I don't know. It doesn't make sense, but I know that that's where our flesh, even in the body of Christ, floats to. Because our flesh will just go there. All wisdom, knowledge is of God. And he has revealed it to us. This is a mystery revealed. Jesus is called the Word. The Word. Light in John chapter 1. It's amazing that he would reveal himself to us in the flesh, no less, and then in word. So, Daniel's praising him. For thou hast made known unto us the king's matter. He sure did. Verse 24. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, and he said, don't kill everybody, I got it. So Arioch, verse 25, brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I found a man of the captives of Judah, that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, he changed his name, art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret, again, this is that word mystery, which the king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, astrologers, magicians, soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets. He reveals mysteries. Yeah, now, these words must have just flowed out of Daniel, because remember the night before, right? And then the revelation in his dream, and now, like Wayne said, now he's called to action. This is it.
There's a bit of detail that I'd like to brush back on.
Okay.
That when Daniel first approached the king, he bypassed Arioch. There's no indication.
Yeah, I know. It says he doesn't. Yeah.
No. And then on the second instance,
Yes.
Arioch makes an introduction.
Yes.
And
So I'm not
that's
sure
very
how.
unique.
I'm not sure how that all worked. I
Yeah.
saw that as well.
But
Dan
I thought
explained.
back to the story of Esther, where if you approach the king without permission, that's your life right
Would have
there.
been a similar scenario, I suspect. Somehow, but of course, we know God has allowed him to be favorable in the sight of the king. Right, Daniel, right, at its early stage. But now is this little light in Daniel is going to shine. Right? His place has come. I mean, when I say place, the book of Daniel is a milestone in history, because God is going to reveal mysteries of what is going to come to pass on this entire planet for hundreds, thousands of years to come. Is what he's going to do now with Daniel. And this dream that he stuck in Nebuchadnezzar's hand. Yeah, really. Of all the places right now, Nebuchadnezzar is going to get sort of a revelation of the history, the future, if you would, prophecy of the world, the planet, the entire planet. And it's going to be given to him in this dream. And now, Daniel's time to shine. And so, verse 8:28, there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. And as for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter, and he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. Again, always mystery. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Now, I looked a little bit into that question you brought up, and it seems like there's not a consensus, so to speak. There is an explanation. What I'm bringing up now is Wayne asked about whether King Nebuchadnezzar knew the dream himself or did not. And the phrasing in the King James is, when Nebuchadnezzar is speaking about the dream, the thing is gone from me. The thing is gone from me. And the flow of the grammar suggests, at least in the reading of it, it sounds like that means the dream is gone from me. I can't recall it in its clarity, at least. I can't recall it, so I don't even know it. You're going to have to reveal it to me. And then I'll have interpretation, because it was troubling. I know that much. I woke up with all the emotions. But so the ESV has, and others translations have looked at that and have gone back to, I guess, the original and said that the thing is not the dream. The thing is the decree.
Or the details, maybe.
Well, the decree, no,
Oh, okay.
the decree that came out of his mouth, the thing has gone from me. I have decreed it, you're not changing this thing. I have decreed it, you tell me or you're dead. The thing has gone from me, right? So, and then there's different, of course, everybody will have a little bit, they'll settle their position based on some of the other things. The phrase I just read, he's going to reveal the thoughts of your heart, is one that adds to the, I don't even know the details of the dream, or I can't get it back kind of thing. So, there's some discussion on both sides of that argument.
And I think the really unique thing here is that the king says he's the only person that knows what this dream was about. Whether he knows the details or not.
Yep.
And so the only way you can for sure find out if this guy is
Legit.
legit is tell me what the dream was.
Exactly, so it's like a litmus test,
Yep.
if you would, right? That he has put in place, or God has put in place, right? Either way, and I guess I lean a little bit, of course, towards God has arranged it so that regardless, either Nebuchadnezzar said, I'm not going to reveal it to you, or he can't even get it, right? He has no choice. You're going to have to tell me what it is. But regardless, what is coming into place is there going to be a revelation of God to the Gentile world, the heathen world, that is so profound and dramatic that there is no other explanation other than God is real. Who? The God of Daniel is real. That's what God has, and He can do that. Now, He can do this in your life. You know, you don't have to be a brilliant apologetic.
Apologetic.
Sure, there it is. You don't have to be a brilliant one. It's nice to know some of that, but you don't. That's not what's needed. God said He was gonna fix this place up with babes. You know, the mouths of babes are gonna speak. Well, He can use us in the simplest way, if that's what He desires, because He can have put all the other chess pieces in place, and then you now are just there, and you say your part for the glory of God. It doesn't have to be profound, it doesn't have to be a dream, it doesn't have to be the interpretation of a dream, obviously, right? It just has to be you willing to be available for His glory. God made it so that now, when this light shone, who do you think was the most grateful that Daniel got it right? Well, I think all the other sorcerers, all the other magicians, all the other guys that thought they had mysterious wisdom, the supernatural, if you would, those guys. Because when you come up to a player that is that much better at this than you are, right? You're just going to go, okay. Now, you might not even admit it to him, but when you're sitting at home, you're admitting it to yourself. You're going, okay.
I think
Now,
that,
I could have come up with any interpretation if I had just had the dream. I would have made something up. But what he did was so far and beyond what anything that I could have done, and I know it, right? So God revealed Himself to the wisest of Babylon, the most intellectual, the most knowledgeable, the most scientific, if you would, whatever word you want to use. These guys were at the top of the class, and somebody came in and revealed the true God to them.
with a disclaimer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, with a disclaimer. You know how Daniel says it's not about
Oh,
me.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Now, watch what happened. These guys all would have done it if they had been able to do it. It's me. Right? It's me. It's me. They are the flesh. Daniel is the spirit, if you would, in you. Okay? There's this parallel running. Because if you get to do it, it's glorifying you. And if God gets to do it, it's glorifying Him. The spirit in you is that which would glorify God. The flesh in you is that which would want to glorify yourself. And it's always just black and white like that in the deal. When it's cut through, and God is, again, this book is a beautiful mirror. And I can see myself on both sides of this thing. Because I can see if I was one of those other guys, I'm going, yeah, okay, here.
Kind of on that, I think in verse 29, he's basically saying that I've got this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than anyone else alive, which is like very human, because that's kind of, I interpret that as he's going, whoa, I've got this thing that people are going to think I am like smart, like nobody's going to believe me, you know what I mean? Not because I'm better than you, but I've got this thing. And it's like, you can kind of, I guess, relate to that, I guess, right? Because if you've got a vision, you're human, you're probably going to be pretty scared to share it, especially with someone who has so much more power, and it's going to kill you if he thinks, you're...
Yep, I agree.
What a temptation to take credit here.
Yeah.
Piles of
This is probably the biggest thing Daniel did at the moment.
Yep, exactly. Agatha.
I like the word secret, because a mystery, people can look at it and unravel it. And I don't think that King Nebuchadnezzar really did remember that dream, because for somebody to come in and tell him the dream and then, oh, yes, that in itself proves that it's not just like guessing, like anybody could pass it up.
But hang on, if you would have not had any knowledge, didn't know anything about the dream, remembered nothing of it, it wouldn't have been a miracle to Nebuchadnezzar. What's the miracle is that maybe he didn't remember the details. Sometimes you dream something and
You can't quite do it, but if someone to talk to you about
somebody
it,
talks about it, and all of a sudden it's
of course, that's it, right? That's it, yeah.
So I think Agatha has a point there too. It could have been either way, I think. It doesn't matter. But I've had God blindside me completely. And as soon as He does it, I remember and I go, okay, I should have seen that, but I didn't. But that, like, I could see Him not remembering the dream at all. And then when He starts to say it, He goes, that is it. That is what I dreamed. Like, So it could have been either way, it doesn't matter. But what I think is amazing is, this is a God that reveals mysteries. It's so exciting, but we often choose not to live like that.
Yeah.
We do it on our own strength, so we never see Him reveal the mysteries that He wants to reveal in our lives. He wants to glorify Himself in our own lives, in our walks daily, and we just take care of ourselves, so we never see it. But when we have no choice, then we watch Him and we go, you are a God of of mysteries, right?
One mystery to me is that it's 3 minutes to 10. We didn't get to the dream. But we will next week.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, the desperation that Nebuchadnezzar has, that he's gonna so willing to put people to death, I think he did not know this out.
Ah,
The
yeah.
desperation,
Well,
to kill people.
yes.
You're talking about desperation though, what about the other guys?
Yeah,
He was a-
they would be happy. Okay, well, let's finish up with this then. But there is a God in heaven that reveals secrets, right? And he's gonna reveal the stuff that's gonna come to pass in the latter days. So I'm gonna just end with this question: why reveal latter day stuff?
To me, it's a mystery.
Why would you reveal, why would God want to reveal latter day stuff? Now, and who's he revealing it to? Everybody, yeah, I mean, everybody. Why would you do it? Alan, you had your hand up?
He mixes understanding with faith.
He does. Why would he do this? I'll just we'll close with this. If the world was going to end out great for everybody, I don't think he'd have to reveal it. If he's going to reveal it, I think there's a warning, there's a danger that because of love, right? He's got to reveal stuff because there's a bad thing coming. If it was all good, we're all good. Yeah, then
We're on easy street.
so there's an underlying purpose, something, but there's also a hope tied in it, right? And that's all woven in. Why even bother revealing prophecy to us? Well, one of the things is this isn't the end, guys.
The prize is out there and you can look for it.
Let's close. Heavenly Father, thank you for revealing mysteries. We praise you for it. And we just rejoice in that you are our God. So I pray, as Maggie mentioned, that you would help us to live with this God that reveals mysteries in our daily lives, and with the aim of glorifying you. Pray that you'd help each of us do that. We have a tendency to go the other direction, but help us in Jesus' name.